I love it. I love when the room is full. I'd like to welcome you all here for the regular City Council meeting, December 3rd, 2024. At this time, I call the meeting to order. I'm going to invite up Pastor Doug Monday from Calvary Church of Maricopa to give the invocation, after which the Pledge of Allegiance will be given to us by Vice Mayor Wade. Please stand if you're able.
Asking for guidance of your Holy Spirit, asking God that you would hear the concerns and do what is best for this city. And I know that's the hearts of the whole council. I thank you for the men and women who protect us, the police and the fire. God, Lord, we indeed live in a very, very wonderful community. And I thank you that we have a council that wants to hear the concerns of the citizens and can react to them, can act on them, and God sometimes have to make the tough choices of saying no. But Lord, that's why you have put them in authority here. So by the power of your Holy Spirit, give them wisdom beyond their own strength and their own minds. And we just commit this evening to you in the name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Monday and Vice Mayor Wade. That'll take us to roll call. Vanessa, please.
Councilmember Gettle?
Present.
Councilmember Knorr?
Present.
Councilmember Learman?
Here.
Councilmember Marsh?
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Here.
Vice Mayor Wade?
Present.
Mayor Smith?
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have four.
Thank you, Vanessa. That'll take us to proclamations. Tonight we have two. So I'll come down and we'll have these proclamations given. All right, our first one, let me get it open here. I'd like to invite up Tamara Washington and anyone that came with her. She is from Leading Edge Academy. Sure, anyone that you want to bring up, absolutely. How are you? Very good, thank you. So this first proclamation, whereas the Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life movement presents an ideal opportunity to help bridge the gap between young people, our local community, government, and law enforcement in a positive way. And whereas our local schools are facing preventable suicides and tragedies that may include warning signs in person or online, but bystanders and friends remain silent amongst threats or cries for help. And whereas our young people can be empowered to seek help for themselves, be advocates for their peers, report concerning posts or comments to school representatives or law enforcement, and adults can receive training to help spread the message. It is okay to care enough to speak up, stand up, and save a life. And whereas Arizona students from 169 public, charter, private, and tribal schools have learned the message and created the student-led impact projects in their schools and communities that have impacted over 500,000 youth in the state of Arizona. So now, therefore, I, Nancy Smith, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim the month of January 25 as Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life Month in the City of Maricopa, Arizona. Encourage our community members, our educators, and police department to continue to partner collaboratively to increase awareness of prevention resources designed to make our communities safer and promote a healthy environment for all children and adolescents. Chief Goodman, are you Chief Goodman? as you entered, you know that we're having a celebration for Martin Luther King Day, which was yesterday. And I was out there, enjoyed the music, enjoyed the poetry from our young people. So phenomenal, with so many profound things to say. I loved it. So if you are here to celebrate, and it might be the whole crowd, I don't know, Martin Luther King Day, come forward, and we'd like to have you join us in this proclamation. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come along, right up here. Very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, here we go. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dedicated his life to the pursuit of human justice and love for his fellow man, considered a vanguard in search of advancement of social justice and equal opportunity for all, Dr. King challenged all people to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King believed immensely in the power of service through individual action and collective hope to create a brighter future, and whereas Dr. King inspired his fellow believers to commit to a day of service, which is the only federal holiday commemorated. And whereas Dr. King impacted such landmark United States federal laws as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968, and created a framework to ensure equality and advance justice in the years ahead. And whereas Dr. King taught us to see the commonality of our dreams, our hopes, and our fears, along with the truths and dignities that bind us together as human beings. Whereas Dr. King believed that the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice, and that it requires all hands and all hearts to keep its course straight and true. Whereas we recognize the need to model Dr. Martin Luther King's pursuit of unity, equity, and justice to prevent all forms of discrimination. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Smith, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim the day, January 21st, 2025, as recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday in the City of Maricopa, Arizona, and encourage all citizens to join with us in celebrating the significance of Dr. King's legacy in its past, present, and moving forward into the future.
Short people step up.
All right, that'll take us to the report from the mayor. Council members, would you like to share? Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
Happy New Year, everybody. On December 30th, at the Board of Adjustments meeting in Florence, the county staff announced that Pinal County would publish their updated zoning ordinance for public review on January 16th. And I checked the website today, and it's up there. So the review period will be until April 15th. And this zoning code update is the first one in a long time. And we've been dealing with the old county code for some time, and it isn't good. It's been pretty raggedy. So take a look at it. It's important to us because we'll be annexing county land that has houses built on it according to this new code. On the 13th, I attended the Senior Advisory Committee, and we got a presentation on the Senior Info Expo. The Senior Info Expo was held on the 18th. We hosted over 500 attendees. Chance Love and Brenda Campbell did a bang-up job of putting that event together. The Senior Advisory Committee handed the job of running this event over to the city staff, and that was a wise move. Chance and Brenda are just awesome. On the 16th, I attended the MUSD State of the District presentation, and was very impressed by Tracy and her plans and her school system. On the 17th, I attended the State Transportation Board meeting. Our own Bill Robertson and Mayor Smith spoke on our favorite topic, the 347. And I think the mayor has something to report about that. On the 18th was the Senior Info Expo. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Marsh. Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to be back in the chair again and back working for everybody. Just one really big announcement. We have a very important birthday coming up here on the 1st of February. If you haven't heard, our Pinal County will be turning 150 years old on that day. So it's a remarkable accomplishment. There are some festivities planned there in the county courthouse, historic courthouse area there in Florence. Everybody's invited. It's a free event. It'll be February the 1st, Saturday, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And so if you'd like to put that on your calendars and come celebrate 150 years of being young, that'd be a fabulous thing to come be. So that's all I have for today, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. Councilmember Knorr.
Thanks, Mayor. I had the opportunity to attend the Arizona League of Cities newly elected officials training in December, which is a great opportunity to learn about how to be a good council member, about council and city manager relations, and learn about policies, procedures, budget. It's quite a informative two-day event that the league puts on, and I was thrilled to be able to gain that education. I was also able to learn about things that maybe we could bring into our city or bring back, and one of those is doing like an annual city council, city manager performance review. It's not like, it doesn't deal with hiring and firing, it's just like a opportunity for the city council and the city manager to sit down and talk about the different jobs and where the city council wants to see for the next year. We did that for my 12 years when I was on the school board, and I think it'd be a great thing to bring back to the city. So I look forward to working with my fellow council members and the mayor on bringing that great policy, procedure, whatever you want to call it, but it's a best practice, back to the city. I think it'll be very valuable. I was able to attend the Senior Expo, and it was fantastic. Well done, what Councilmember Marsh said. It was, honestly, I didn't hear one complaint. It was perfect. I mean, it's hard to put on a perfect event, and I would say it was near perfect. It was great attendance, great exhibitors. I mean, if you needed to learn about any service for seniors in the area, it was there, and sometimes multiple opportunities. And it was fantastic. So thank you to all who attended and to all who put the time in to make that happen. I also attended the MUSD State of the District, which was great, hearing from the students. And, you know, we have several students in Maricopa attending Yale, Notre Dame, just to name a few, plus the Arizona schools, which are amazing as well. And it's just fantastic that our community and our schools are preparing students. They can do whatever they want. They can reach the highest of highs when they graduate from here, and it's really good to see that and hear from those students. And then finally, the Cultural Affairs and Arts Committee. We meet monthly. I'm the liaison from the council to that, one of the liaisons, the vice mayor shares it with me. And the new gallery is coming up, and it's can't judge a book by its cover, so the committee just approved the art for that. So I highly encourage everybody when that goes live to go check it out, because it's a lot of great artwork from local artists. It's just amazing the talent we have in our community. So I highly encourage everyone to check that out. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Noor. Councilmember Manfredi.
It's been a long time. Yeah, I almost forgot where I was sitting, and then I realized they moved where I was sitting. Now I'm all the way over here. I've been in that seat over there for 10 years. It's crazy. I was lost. I was just walking around. It's been a great time. I mean, everybody's, you know, going crazy. We have so much to do over the holidays, and then, of course, over the new year. So welcome, everybody, and Happy New Year. There's no way we can ever, when we sit up here, talk about all the stuff that we've done over the last month and a half, I think it is. Jeez.
8 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 8 weeks. It's been a long time. But one of the greatest things that I get to do all the time, well, at least once a year, is I get to head out to the middle school. And I get to sit at the middle school, and I get to listen to the vision that our middle schoolers have for the future cities, or the future of our cities. And it's great because they put together these huge future city plans. This year was something different too. The younger kids came up with tiny homes. So they had to basically design tiny homes and how to make them sustainable. It was great. So what would they do is they bring all these together, and we get to judge them and give them points, and then they go to the state, and they compete at the state. I'm going to get it wrong, but I think there was like 8 or 9 awards that the middle schools received at the state Future Cities competition just the other day. It's the greatest thing, and if you've never done it, reach out to your middle schools and ask them if next year you can volunteer just to either help them build the future cities and or judge them. Because seeing their eyes and the way they talk about what they see the future in 40 or 50 years is crazy. This year was floating cities, by the way. Beautiful stuff. About a month ago, we had a business meeting here in the city of Maricopa. It was just a couple of us from the council and our city manager. We sat here and we listened to what small businesses and medium and large businesses, we listened to what businesses want to see in the city of Maricopa and how we can help them achieve the goals that they have for what they want to see. It was great. It was an open town hall. People were surprised because I think we had it planned for an hour, and I think it was 2.5 to 3 hours. We sat in this room and just let everyone speak. Everyone that showed up got to speak about what they believed was important for them as business people in the city of Maricopa. We're sitting down, I think it's next week, and we're going to go over, we've already been talking a little bit, but we're going to go over some of the lowest hanging fruit that was brought up, and it's amazing we didn't think of that. But thankfully we had them here, and they were able to tell us things that we were like, oh, we can do that, we can do this, we can do that. So we were able to find things that we're going to be able to easily implement. And the last is just this past week, I had the pleasure, I guess you want to call it pleasure, of listening to the Transportation Policy Committee of MAG, and I serve. right? So I got to sit there and I got to listen about how much prices have gone up for transportation over the last few years. And you'd be amazed, well, not really amazed, you'd be sad to realize how much more expensive it gets every single year to build a simple mile of road, to build a simple, nothing simple about it, but build a simple bridge. And so the greatest thing about it is we get to serve on these committees as council members, and we get to hear what's important and what's happening in the state so that we can help influence for our city. Because if we're not out there talking, sometimes you get forgotten. So that's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Wade.
Yes, ma'am, that has a nice roll to it.
It does.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank everyone who attended this evening's release or party for Dr. King, the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King. And next time someone says to you, if you're making fries or whatever, or getting some gas, that there's nothing to do in Maricopa, you'll be able to say, well, no, there is. And there are people who want to do something and want to put something together, and encourage them to do so, because this is a community that welcomes everyone that comes to its doors. And just by looking out at the people who were participating in the celebration this evening, made my heart feel good, because it was love there. And that's what we need. That's how we get from one place to another, is through love. Not through animosity, not through wickedness or anything along those lines, but love. So I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you for the participants that may be in the room. Let's see, one at least. And as we do other things throughout the years, please make sure you step in there and participate and help. And by the way, we got the bombest staff in the world. City of Maricopa has some bomb staff, folks, that's for sure. What do you need, Vice Mayor? What can I do for you? How can I help you? Where can I do something for you? Without a doubt, we got the best in the city. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor, appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Vice Mayor Wade. Okay, so real quickly, I just have to touch on the local business roundtable. It was phenomenal. And what I loved about it most is I can tell you, and I told this to the chamber director, Kelly Anderson, I said, in 4 campaigns, you know, out working from business to business, door to door, campaign event to campaign event, I always ask, what can the city do for small businesses? And I always get more affordable space. Well, we know that one. That one's definitely a hard thing for a city to build, space. That's not typically what a city does. And I actually have given 3 presentations at Chamber and also asked the question, what can we do? And it's always about space. But this time, we walked away. I summarized my notes into low-hanging fruit, medium-hanging fruit, high challenging ideas, and that can't happen. Just so you know, some of that was there. But so fruitful, so professional. I'm so proud of our community, because it could have been just, you know, anything. And it ended up being very productive and very wonderful, and a lot of good things. And in fact, the city incorporated one of the ideas already. So really a fun topic. I can't wait to dig into all the details in the summary of my list. I went to the Veterans Christmas Brunch for families. Santa was there, wonderful. The room was full, all veteran families with small children, just eating it up. And they were eating it up because there was a plethora of food, and Santa was just wonderful. He handed out gifts, so very fun. Thank you, veterans, for putting that on for our veteran families. I also attended the Maricopa Music Circle and the Maricopa Chorus Concert. And I know Judith is here. Phenomenal. It was so much fun and so well done. We have some marvelous talent in this city when it comes to the orchestra, when it comes to writing music, when it comes to singing, some wonderful, wonderful talent. So thank you, Judith, for putting on such a great event. Next year, go see it. It's phenomenal. I also went to the Black Chamber Gala, and that was really well produced, right, Cedric? I see you shaking your head. Really well produced. I had so much fun, and it's so fun to really celebrate businesses within the city of Maricopa. I also attended the Future Cities as a judge, and I was delighted when I saw in the newspaper that several of the teams won awards. Phenomenal. These kids are pretty outstanding. You have to stand with a memorized script in front of judges. And, you know, I don't normally worry about being the mayor in the room, but they're like, oh my gosh, the mayor's in the room. Like, they're so cute, so cute. But they did so phenomenal. I was really impressed with them. I also went to the MUSD State of the District, and they celebrated 3 youth, which are the phenomenal youth. And you're gonna, if you come to the State of the City next week on Wednesday the 29th, you can still register. You're going to meet one of those youth, a phenomenal student, and you're gonna be shocked by how much he has done. Went to the Pinal Partnership Breakfast where our county supervisor, our brand new county supervisor, Vidiello, was speaking along with the other 4 county supervisors. Let me tell you, he's gonna represent this district well. He did a phenomenal job, and he really cares about producing things. And so I know he's already produced some things. He called me up and he goes, I did this. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Thank you very much. So great job by our new county supervisor, Vidiello. Went to the Senior Info Expo. Along with what Councilmember Marsh indicated, I would also like to thank the volunteers. Some are in the audience. The staff, absolutely. They got this requirement to perform like 3 months before the expo actually came off, and they did phenomenal. And the Senior Advisory Committee, which does a phenomenal job volunteering and making sure that this event is pulled off, and they served that day so well. I was really impressed. Hey, what about the farmer's market? Did you go to the farm? Yeah, did you go to the farmer's market? I was there. They had a ribbon cutting, and from what I understand, I wasn't able to go the first time when they did their soft opening, but it's grown already. Lots and lots of people, lots and lots of booths. They did have a produce offering, and they expect to increase that. So go out there, but I will tell you, my husband went along with me. He does that sometimes. I'm like, oh, come on, go with me. And he walked away and ate there the most delicious breakfast burrito, and he loved it so much, he went by another vendor, and he's like, I'm getting lunch here too. So he got lunch. So the food trucks are phenomenal, and it was a great experience. So every other Sunday, and last Sunday they held it, so it'll be 2 Sundays from then. All right, now for the fun news, in my opinion. This is always my fun. State Route 347. So I will start off by saying, Mr. Bill Robertson was there. He did such an eloquent, calm job speaking, and he gave them all kinds of wonderful stats. Now, for those of you that don't know me, and I was teasing with Mayor Price about this the other day, when I get like wound up about something, I can get really loud. And I don't mean to be loud. It's just my voice. It gets loud, and I start talking really fast. And Katie, that's what I did. I know, I'm sorry, but that's what I did. And let me just share with you what I informed them of. I first informed them and reminded them that State Route 347 has 2 of the intersections on the 10 most deadliest intersections in the western United States. So not even just Arizona, in the western United States. And I reminded them of that. I reminded them that Maricopa is the 5th fastest growing city in the nation. And then I dug into it. I was like, here is what I believe we have done as a city council, as a city, as staff. We have done so much in partnering with you. First of all, we've had 16 years of mayors and some council members and our residents going to ADOT State Transportation Board meetings nearly perfect. Now, I'm sure we probably missed 1 or 2. 16 years we've been pleading this case to the Arizona State Transportation Board meeting. I said we also went and got funding for all 3 intersections, Riggs Road, Casablanca, and the Cement Plant Road. We have the funding for those 3 intersections. We also worked with MAG to get us $90 million on the northern portion of State Route 347, which is in Maricopa County, $90 million. We worked with them to get that. We also took over 30-mile lanes, 30-mile lane miles, I think, lane miles, within the city on John Wayne Parkway and 238 so that the city can control its destiny with new businesses. But we also did it because it takes that cost off of the ADOT records. It allows us to empower ourselves. But we have saved ADOT those funds. We also have shared cost on the 1 mile of John Wayne Parkway that we just finished, like 6 months ago or something like that. We shared the cost there. And the city took on the cost for the intersection, which the state could have been technically responsible for, but we took that on. We also, every year in March, myself and council members and our staff go to the federal government, our legislators there, and we talk about how much this is needed. And they are all on board when the design is done to support a grant for finishing off 347. And so, I share this with the full board, and I'm talking imagine me really loud and talking really fast. And I then came back to, if you lived on the street, the road that had 2 of the intersections that are most deadliest in the western United States out of 10, you would fix this road. I'm asking you to make sure this project is in the 5-year plan. And so I decided I better take a pause there. They told me I was out of time anyway. And so at the end of the meeting, our Arizona State Transportation representative, Jenny Howard, spoke up and she said, we need, in February, to have an in-depth conversation on how to get 347 in the 5-year plan fully funded. And that was music to our ears, music to our ears. I know Councilmember Marsh was on the call, Bill was there, and I think that might have been it for those that were on the call, but music to our ears. Katie was on the call. Just wonderful. But the neat thing is, then another State Transportation Board meeting, Ted Maxwell spoke up and said, this has to get done. This has to be in our plan. He says, I have questions about the funding, but I need more information, but we have to have a conversation. I totally agree. And then the chairman, Jen Daniels, said, we need a meeting, and the staff said, we will have a meeting in February to talk more in depth. And then our staff, which has wonderfully been working, an idea that we have for helping to fund, actually has met with ADOT staff as well. And so you put all that together, and then I had 3 meetings with 3 of those board members, and we're hearing positive things like, Mayor, we agree. It's time to make this happen. So I can't promise, but I'm telling you, we put everything out there we possibly can. And I feel like I told Board Member Maxwell this morning on a call, I said, I know this is my humble opinion, but the city of Maricopa and all of its councils, all of its mayors, all of its staff has done everything we possibly can. We have put together the model on how to help you get this project done. And he goes, you have. I talk about Maricopa all the time. I'm like, great, let's get it done. So that's the good news. We'll see how the outcome of the meeting comes about. Hopefully it's all positive and we have wonderful things to share in the future. And so that is the message from the mayor and council. Thank you very much. That takes us to the report from the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Just 2 updates tonight. First of all, while we've talked about Smith Inky and 347 and the future of that and that intersection work that's been ongoing, I didn't want to pass up the opportunity to mention that we hope to wrap up paving on that next week.
Does that open it all up, city manager?
Correct. So barring any weather, I mean, we have some forecast for rain in the next week, so hopefully that doesn't delay anything.
All right.
But if it does, it'd be a couple days. And so really anticipate getting that project wrapped up. There will be a second phase. As we looked at the roadway condition of the intersection itself, it could use some refreshing. And so we looked at that and said, well, we could follow kind of the ADOT model that's been done in the past and do it in the right now, go for it, and be really inconvenient. or we can do what's best for our community. And so what we've tried to do is schedule that over a couple of weekends later in the summer when the temperatures are higher and the pavement will actually work better because those temperatures are higher. And so we anticipate doing a little bit of intersection improvement, just repaving. That'll be basically 2 Saturday night, Sunday mornings, probably in May or June. And so we'll come back and finish that part up, but try to be as least disruptive as possible while still providing an opportunity for that roadway to last us well into the future with that new surface treatment. And so excited for that new, for all of the new lanes to open and see how that works. And I think we're going to be really excited with that result. So
Very good. Maybe June when school's out.
what's that?
Maybe June when school's
Yeah,
out.
and again, Saturday night into Sunday morning,
Yeah.
so it shouldn't be
Oh,
during
that's
school
true.
traffic
That's true.
anyway,
That's
but-
true. Okay,
but
good point.
We'll get there as
All
best
right.
we can. And then the one other thing, obviously with the end of years and start of new years, we've had some opportunity to kind of look back at some of our accomplishments over the last year as a community. And just wanted to point out, in 2024, we added 278,000 square feet of retail space. And that's anything from Home Depot, obviously, which is very visible, but also it's, you know, the Art of Fades or K Bella Spa or Mandy's Wine Bar. So anything in scale from 1,000 square feet to 140,000 square feet, we've seen a lot of different commercial and retail areas come online to the city of Maricopa. And so very exciting. I think that's probably our highest number ever. 278,000 square feet is a lot. And so excited to see what happens in 2025. Obviously the Southbridge area with Lowe's and the area around Home Depot will continue to develop, and a couple of spots over in the Wells by Walmart, and maybe even some spaces along John Wayne Parkway as well. So excited to see what comes in 2025, but really neat 278,000 square feet in 2024. That's all I've got.
Very good. Thank you. Just 1 minute.
You guys are in control down there now. I'm not there. Fridge.
Goodness. That brings us to the call of the public. Thank you. We have 2 speaker cards, so I'll call on them first. Would you please read the instructions? Thank you.
She gets really choked up when we talk about commercial space and the 347. I mean, it gets her right here. It does. The procedures to follow if you address the council are: council requests that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The mayor will limit discussion whenever they deem such an action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the council may respond to criticism made of those who have addressed the council, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take legal action on any matters during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Finally, oh, that's it?
Yeah, you can stop there.
Oh, thanks, you let me stop. I felt like I was in 3rd grade.
All right, so our first speaker is Judith Zaymont. Please come forward, Judith. And if the green light's not on, if you can make sure it's on.
Rich will get it for you. That's his new job with us.
Happy New Year and good evening, Mayor Smith, Vice Mayor Wade, City Council officials, and neighbors. As co-director of Maricopa Arts Council, I'm here tonight to announce the start in just 2 days of the much anticipated Inside the Creative Mind. This free lecture series takes place at the library, and it is always a winter highlight in our city. 2025 will mark its 13th edition. This year, Inside the Creative Mind includes 5 separate free sessions presenting skilled, top-notch professionals in various arts fields. All are Maricopa residents. They'll offer insights, experiences, examples of works, sketches, documents, performances, and finished pieces. Each lecturer is well established with a wide following and is a highly regarded and effective presenter. The opening lecture this Thursday, January 23rd, features author Kay Fisher, a distinguished scientist, prize-winning photographer, and aviation enthusiast. Mr. Fisher has published 5 books currently available on Amazon, plus many articles in specialist magazines. The second lecture, on Saturday, February 1st, features abstract art master Jana Blackburn, whose work is widely exhibited throughout the Southwest. Her paintings have won many, many prizes, and she is a firm believer in the power of art as a mirror of society. Future lectures include author Tom Schilling, musician, author, and slam poet Laura Olivieri, and Navajo weaver Tiffany Yazzie. While the mindset of an artist can often seem mysterious, nonlinear, and a bit magical, creatives are in fact very practical, and especially in conceptualizing and bringing forward into being their newest work. Each up-close and personal session of Inside the Creative Mind looks to answer the eternal puzzle: what makes the magic work? January is International Creativity Month, and Inside the Creative Mind lecture series is a great way to celebrate Maricopa's Life of the Mind. This free series runs from late January through the end of March on select Thursday evenings and Saturday afternoons. And each session includes Q&A plus a light reception. Complete details are on the info cards available on the lobby counter just as you leave the council chamber. I hope to see you there for experiencing at least 1 or 2 sessions of Inside the Creative Mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Our next speaker is Kent Ojan.
Happy New Year, Mayor. It's Mayor Smith, City Council. Happy New Year. As the Executive Director of the Black Maricopa Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank those of you who attended the gala for supporting us. Thank you. I do have one question. What is the process or the procedure for the BMCC? What do we have to do to get our link on the City of Maricopa website?
We're not able to respond. It's not agendized, but we can connect you with somebody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
actually, Quinn would probably be the right person to talk to.
Quinn?
Quinn.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you very much. All right, that's all the speaker cards I have. Would anyone like to approach the podium? Oh, my.
Mayor, for the official record, I'm the proud first gentleman of Maricopa, and I appreciate your dedication and your service to the people of Maricopa, but today is our 24th anniversary. I thought it would be good to deliver them to you personally, and I'll see you soon. Don't be too late.
Ah, if you don't know him, he's such a great guy. Of course, that's my humble opinion again, right? Okay, would anyone else like to approach? No more surprises like that. Yes, Supervisor Vidiello.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Ben, City Manager, and staff, and Happy New Year, Maricopa. So, as you may know, I don't have anything on my back saying I'm running for supervisor. So if you don't know, my name is Rich Fidello. I'm your new county supervisor. When I ran for that position, I made a pledge to you guys that I would work hard like I did when I was on council. I plan on doing that for you for the next 4 years, and hopefully another 4 years after that. So I had my first board meeting on the 8th. It went well, and then I was also asked to be on a panel with the 4 other supervisors, and it was at Pinnell Partnership, as the mayor mentioned, and one of our supervisors came with props. I said to myself, I could not be out-propped. So I had to act fast. So as I was talking about the I-10, I was also talking about the 347, and I was talking about Maricopa. So I came up with a little quick prop that I had to frame and give to the mayor because she knows as well as I do how the 347 is so important to us and how we can, Pinnell County can hopefully get some funds to support the 347. So I had this framed for you, Mayor, because you got a kick out of it that day, it seemed like, so I just wanted to get this for you and let you know that the 347, believe me, I've only been a board member since the 1st, and I've been to Pinnell County 6-7 times, and that's all they keep hearing from me. I need money for the 347. So I'm not going to give up. Thank you.
Oh, that's fun. I love it. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, I see another coming. Please come along. Oh, so she keeps...
I'm sorry.
You can pass it down.
I just want to say Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Pastor Cedric. I'm from Blaze Ministry. This is my pastor, Bishop Hill, and this is my lovely wife, Kendra. I want to thank you for having that Martin Luther King celebration. I'm from Alabama, so I have marched when I was young for causes, so that really touched my heart. And so, Vice Mayor, I'm kind of get choked up because this day really means a lot to me. Vice Mayor Wade, thank you for inviting Blaze Ministries. Amber, thank you for coming. Mayor Nancy, thank you for coming. Rich, thank you for coming to our church. And I want to say, I've been to a lot of places, but I love Maricopa. Me and my wife are the house of Maricopa. Our church and our bishop, we put money in a Copper Sky Gym. So I just want to thank you for everything.
Thank you,
All right.
Cedric. All right, come on. Hurry before they beat you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, and our community. I don't know if I can go after that round of applause for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I am Ocean Kent. I'm owner of Ocean Industries, and I am so elated to be a resident of Maricopa. We have something coming up in the Valley, which is our cultural sensitivity training. I was honored enough to work with Chief Goodman for over 6 months in putting this program together. Councilman Wade also assisted us in putting some things together. So no need to wait any further on cultural law enforcement professional development cultural sensitivity training will be in Maricopa, sponsored by the Maricopa Police Department. You as a police officer or a city official will be able to get 4 additional continuous credits, so it's been approved as well, so we are so excited. Please join us. We'll be talking about bias, explicit bias, implicit bias, and microaggressions, and how can we build bridges throughout the community. We'd love to have you come out and join us. We are excited. Last but not least, the last time I was here, I shared that we were putting together some training for our seniors in Technology 101. We're really close. We're looking at the dates of the 25th of February and the 27th of February, which is a Tuesday and a Thursday. We've reached out to Chance with the community center. They just wrapped up a phenomenal event, so he's still kind of putting his eyelashes and hair back on. He's like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I also reached out to Province, so hopefully we'll hear something back soon. But if not, we will definitely be supporting our seniors in Technology 101. It'll start with cell phones, then it'll go over to the laptops. We want to make sure that our seniors have a way to be connected to the community, even if they're shut in, and we want to thank the community for supporting us in that. So we hope to see you at the training. Remember, I'll leave a few flyers over here. You can also register at oceanindustries.llc.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to approach the podium? Seeing none, I will close the call to the public. That'll take us to consent agenda. At this time, we have consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.13. I have no speaker cards. Council members, do you have any questions, concerns, issues, or want to pull anything from consent agenda? If no, do I have
no
a
questions, just a motion to approve?
Thank you very much. Motion from council member, seconded by Vice Mayor Wade. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, so that'll take us to our regular agenda item. First one is item 8.1, and this is our opportunity as newly elected officials. Well, not newly elected, I guess, but, well, for some of us, yeah. To appoint people to the P&Z Commission. And so I'll start with Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this moment, I'd like to take just a moment to give a heartfelt thanks to a longstanding member of our community who served more than 10 years on our current Planning and Zoning Commission. Jim, I know you're here, and you're going to hate me, but would you go ahead and just stand up? I'd like everybody to get to know Jim. If you don't know Jim, Jim and his family moved here in Maricopa, I believe it was 2005, if I recall correctly, Jim, and he immediately went to work. There's not a project or a group here in the city that isn't somehow touched by Jim and his talents and blessings. So just a remarkable individual. As with a lot of individuals, you have a lot of irons in the fire. Sometimes you get juggling all of those things, and it just gets a little bit overwhelming at times, but he's stuck in through there. All the good times and the bad times for the last 10 years serving on our committee, or commission. So we appreciate that long service and appreciate all that he has brought to our city for that. He will be retiring from the commission, and so I'd like to nominate his replacement, if I may, Madam Mayor. Mr. Robert Klob, if you would stand for us so we can get to see your face as well. Very good. I'd like to brag a little bit about Mr. Klob, if I could. He comes with a very impressive resume. He has over 39 years of experience in architecture. He has an impressive background designing commercial, residential, multifamily, hospitality, and production housing units. Over the last 25 years, Mr. Klob has specialized in custom home design. He has his own firm here in Maricopa that he runs. In addition to that, he's received numerous regional and national design awards. From 2015 to 2021, he served as a Planning and Zoning Design Review Commissioner for the City of Chandler, and he currently serves as the Vice Chair of Pinal County's Planning and Zoning Commission, with his commissioner term expiring in February 2027. Now, if that wasn't impressive enough, let me throw a bunch of acronyms out at you. He has served either as a board member or as a former director of the following organizations: the HBACA Design Review Board in the town of Queen Creek, the AIBD is a national organization. He was a board member and a former director of that organization. On the national level, the ICF Builder Group is a board member and a former director. And then in the National Council Building Designer Certification board member. So he comes highly decorated, well loved by those who he's worked with in the past, highly recommended, and just a lengthy resume, highly qualified. And so I'd like to go ahead and nominate Robert Klob to serve as one of our commissioners on our Planning and Zoning Commission.
Very good. Do you want to make that a motion?
I would like to make that a motion.
Do I have a second for Robert Klob?
I'll second. I'd like to make a comment as well.
Sure, absolutely.
I got to meet Robert at the Leadership Academy, and one of the things that really impressed me about him is he immediately offered an internship type of a relationship with any of our youth that are going into his field. And so I immediately jumped on that and had several students in my mind that could benefit from his mentorship. So he just comes with a servant heart and really wanting to help and build our community. So I really appreciated that.
Very good. I have a
And I
motion.
second.
Oh, okay, very good. I have a motion and a second. Any other comments on appointing Robert Clubb? Okay, very good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That particular motion carries. So now I'll go over to
Congratulations,
Councilmember Learman.
Yep. So I have had the, I'm very grateful that I've had Robert Brems serving on P&Z for my term, and he is going to continue to serve. So I'd like to renominate Robert Brems for P&Z.
Very good. Council, any questions? Okay, we have a first and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, that'll take us over to Councilmember Marsh.
Yes, and I'd like to keep Ted Yoakum on P&Z. He's served for many years on the Board of Adjustment and also on P&Z as chair. And he's a retired insurance company executive. And I'd like to keep him on the board.
Very good. So your motion? Very good. I have a motion and a second by Councilmember Manfredi. Any conversation? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And that leaves me. James Singleton, would you please stand up? So James Singleton has been serving for me on the P&Z. This gentleman has done a phenomenal job. He always does his work. If you go to a P&Z meeting, he's always prepared for questions, for comments, and knows what the topics are for each of the agenda items. He serves the community in many ways. I will tell you, he's the astonishing developer for 347facts.com as well, and he informed me earlier that because of that website, we've sent 10,800 emails. I don't know, 1,000. Is it 1,000 or 10,000? 1,000. 10,000 in the last 30 days. I mean, you all are responding and sending emails out to over 100 legislators, and that's because of the website that he created. Has nothing to do with P&Z, but just want you to know how fabulous he is in working in our community. So I would like to nominate James Singleton to stay on the P&Z.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Councilmember Gettle. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, James. You get to stay on P&Z. Good job to all. Thank you. That'll take us to agenda item 8.2, which I understand Rick Williams is going to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Rick Williams here, Planning Manager, and I'm here to present to you this evening, there we go, the Maricopa Industrial Triangle Major General Plan Amendment. This is a request to amend the General Plan Future Land Use Map for approximately 716 acres from Master Plan Community, Medium Density Residential, and Open Space to the Employment Land Use District. It's approximately 716 acres. I've outlined it there in black and yellow for all the parcels that are included in the request this evening. I won't go through the exact location of it, but it's, as you can see, it's located there south of Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, north of Porter, and reaches all the way down to Peters and All Road. The city is the applicant on this. I will say that we don't own every parcel in this, but we are acting as the applicant this evening. In total, looking at the current land use map, the total area is 1,320 acres. What we're asking to amend this evening is 716 acres of that. And as I stated, currently it's master plan community, medium density, and open space. Directing your attention to the exhibit on the right, I would just note that the majority of this is that open space corridor that you see moving through the middle of it. the Santa Rosa Wash, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. What we're requesting is to amend the general plan map to an employment land use designation, which is a broad designation with office, industrial, and commercial, varying scales of intensity, and really looks at future retail, wholesale, business park, and things of that nature. As we talked about the Santa Rosa Wash, we know that there is a lot of land in Maricopa that's in the floodplains. So working with our floodplain administrator here, the regional solution, the CLOMAR, has been obtained. It's the regional solution that really allows us to do this, and the map revision is what supports that. Because when I show you in the next slide the proposed map, not only has it all turned gray, but you can see that the width of the Santa Rosa Wash has been narrowed significantly, and it really just opens up additional lands to those areas. Folks, this is numerous examples of how it's in conformance with the general plan. It actually meets about 20 different objectives and goals of the general plan. I'm not going to go through all of those here this evening. They're contained in your staff report, but I did want to touch on just a couple of them. And the first being the balance between community and jobs and housing, because we talk about that a lot in the city of Maricopa. Additionally, safe transportation and working with our transportation master plan, another critical element that supports the effort that we're asking for you to support this evening. Economic development. To continue to build resources and the capacity for economic development within the city is critical to the future growth. And then finally, the Trails and Open Space Design Plan. The corridor with its new design, as these companies come in and we go through the rezoning processes with those down the future, the trail would become a critical regional and community amenity for the city. With respect to public outreach, and again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but we started the 60-day agency review on September 25th. We had a neighborhood meeting on November 6th. We've met all the public notice requirements. We had our first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on December 9th and the second on December 23rd. With that, that concludes my presentation. We would ask that you confer with the Planning and Zoning Commission and approve this evening. That concludes my presentation, Mayor. I'd be happy to answer any questions with regard to entitlement. We also have members of the staff who may be able to ask any other answer any other questions from the Economic Opportunity Department.
Thank you very much, Rick. Okay, so this is an open hearing, public hearing. I have no speaker cards. Would anyone like to come forward and approach the podium and speak on this topic? Please state your name.
My name is Jeremy Waters. Actually, just wanted to express my support for this move. In the city, it's a pretty common feedback from the residents that all of our commercial space keeps getting rezoned over to residential. So I'm happy to see the request for the other way around. So I just wanted to express my support for this.
Very good, very good. Would anyone else like to approach the podium? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And council, I'll leave it up to you. Any questions, comments? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
I have just one simple question for Mr. Williams, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, please.
I normally see a public participation report in the packet. I didn't see one this time around. I know we've had 2 previous public hearings. Has members of the public voiced any opposition to or for this particular project that you can report on this evening?
Madam Mayor, council members, sir, first, if I failed to include that in the packet, I have the public presentation. I'll be happy to forward that to you. The answer to your question is there's been no opposition to this whatsoever. Between the mailings that we had go out, the only agency review that we got back was from the MSIDD, just notifying us that they had resources throughout that area. Very typical when we go through the rezoning process, we address those MSIDD concerns. Very little participation at the neighborhood meeting itself, and no opposition at either of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions?
Sorry.
Do I have a
Yeah.
motion?
No,
Oh,
I
you
have
have a comment?
Yeah, sorry, I was raising my hand.
Okay.
Quick question, what's MSIDD?
That's the irrigation district that we have that runs through the city of Maricopa.
I knew that, but I just wanted to make sure everybody else knew that. And them saying that everything's okay, what does that mean?
Well, Madam Mayor, Council Member, what they're doing is just putting us on notices that they have facilities that run throughout some of these parcels.
Okay.
It is very common for us to run into MSIDD, particularly in this area of the city where they have a lot of facilities. We typically deal with that, council member, when they come through on an individual basis, when parcels develop, through the zoning process and through the site plan review processes, to make sure that we address all those concerns that they may have.
Thank you. I seen some eyes out there when you said that. I was like, oh, they don't know what that means yet. But we all hear it so much and the acronyms so much that it's okay to define them a little bit. This is a great project, I believe. The project is great. Our staff has done a great job putting it together and cobbling it together. Taking some of the property that was mixed use and residential and making it into a commercial industrial space is what our community wants, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Manfredi. Yes, Councilmember Lehrman.
I know you were talking about 347 earlier this evening, and I know this has been brought up many times before, but one of the most exciting things about this project is it getting cars off of 347 and getting more people working within the city limits of Maricopa, and that's an exciting, huge potential for this project. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Lehrman. Any additional comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion? So moved by Councilmember Manfredi. Second. Excuse me, by Councilmember Lehrman. Any additional conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Thank you very much. That'll take us to item 8.3. We have a presentation, and Quinn is going to be giving us that presentation. Before he gives the presentation, I would like to make a comment and kind of set the stage. So this topic is all about facility rental rates and facility rental fees. And I want to set the stage because I want you to understand what a prime position the city is in because of the 21 years of mayors, councils, and staff who have fiscally conservatively led this city. And just so you know, the city of Maricopa, in terms of sales tax, operates on 50% of the size of a city that we would compare ourselves. 50%, because we're only 21 years, we haven't grown the base, right? So we're operating very conservatively because our generation of revenues is very conservative. That's really important to understand. So because we've operated very conservatively, we put these first rates, rental rates, in place in 2023, and we promised then that we wanted to see a year's worth, it was at the end of 2023, we wanted to see a year's worth of usage, and then we would come back and evaluate the usage and understand whether we needed to lower rental rates, keep them the same, or raise them. So it's a very responsible thing to do. We're at that point. I've seen the package. Hopefully some of you have looked at it online. I'm excited about the direction we're going, but I'm going to turn it over to Quinn to give the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Smith and Vice Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. Thank you for setting that stage. I'm also going to look to set the stage somewhat and also turn some time over to our Recreation Superintendent, David McLeish, who has been elbow deep in this data for some time to help walk us through that. But I appreciate this opportunity because, as you pointed out, we've had some change. We've had a new mission statement as a city that was adopted a couple of years ago of unlocking the full potential of the city of Maricopa to create a thriving and durable community. And more we're discovering that those two objectives, thriving and durable, sometimes compete against each other. So it is Of course, you know this well because you make careful decisions about how we inspire and create opportunities for our community to be thriving while also being cognizant of the impacts that that will have on our taxpayers and the choices that we have to make for, especially when it comes to recreation or activities and programs going on in our community compared with our infrastructure needs, those types of things. So setting that stage, and don't want to take too much time because I know it's your anniversary, Mayor, so
It's okay.
I'll turn some
I want
time
all the
over
good
to-
information out there.
I'll turn some time over to David to walk us through this data.
Good evening, Mayor. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is David McLeish. I'm the Recreation Superintendent for the city, and we've really spent this year and looked at what do we need to improve, and we've looked at our different utilization rates, and so we've made some adjustments both to the policy and also provided some recommendations to the rental rates, and so we'll have a chance to go through that, and then we'll open it up for discussion for any questions that you may have. So as a quick overview, again, this policy, these rates were done at the very tail end of 2023. We've reviewed that data. We're providing recommendations. Ultimately, all of this is with the goal to balance appropriate pricing with our utilization rates. We obviously want to increase the utilization of our facilities. We want to increase the number of programs and offerings in the city by fostering growth in the private and nonprofit sector. And we also want to ensure a financially durable structure. As part of that research, we did look at the entire 2024 year. That's January 1st to December 31st. We also had a chance to look at, a lot of different cities to kind of get a feel for, what's the market rate for these facilities. So, as we go through this, we're making recommendations based on not just market rate of other facilities. We're looking at our own utilization here in the city, and as well as our own objectives of, hey, we want to be durable, but we also want to have a thriving community. A couple things to note as we look at utilization percentage, we're really basing those percentages based on peak hours. As simple definition of what our peak hours is, really these hours are based on the heaviest amount of usage. In general, if you increase, or utilization rates would increase if you decrease the price during those times. However, if it's not during those peak hours and we decrease the rates, you would still probably not see an increase of utilization. There's a lot that goes into that. There's different utilization rates that we define for different types, including ramadas, our rooms, our fields, because ultimately we can make our rooms $1 an hour, but if it's Tuesday at 5 a.m. at Copper Sky, not really necessarily a good chance somebody's going to rent that. If it's at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday in the summer, in the heat of the summer, it's likely that nobody's going to be renting our fields. And so we want to be very transparent that our utilization rate is not based on total hours available. We narrowed it down to those specific peak times.
David?
Yep.
Is it easy to define based on what type of facility it is, what those peak hours are? Or is that a challenge to produce because it varies for every single facility?
So there's a very detailed Excel sheet, and
I'm sure there
not
is.
only did we break it down by field, but we also broke it down by the time of day. So for example, a Copper Sky field, Monday through Friday, is 5 to 9 p.m. However, Saturday and Sunday, it's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so there's, in each different thing, for example, library has slightly different hours than Copper Sky, so we had to reduce those hours. So each thing is different. I can answer specific questions.
Yeah,
but
I have one.
We did really seek to specifically hit, what are peak hours. So for our rooms, for example, so Copper Sky rooms has a lot more, utilization is much more expansive. So for fields, it's narrow to 5 to 9, Monday through Friday. For our rooms, We measure that from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Copper Sky. So
I was just curious. I will have a question because it leads up to some of your data here in regards to non-peak hours. Like if we could generalize it to, all right, here's all of our fields. Let's keep those all the same. Here's all of our conference rooms. Let's keep the peak hours kind of common if that is possible. Here's our ramadas. Let's keep the peak hours common there and determine what the non-peak hours are. But I'll ask that question when we get there.
And I can touch on that a little bit right now. So across our ramadas, it is going to be similar across whether you're Pecana Park, Copper Sky Park, Lakeview, those hours. You know, we really didn't even measure Monday through Friday because, again, when it comes to ramadas, people really aren't renting those. They're not trying to rent those Monday through Friday. So those peak hours are, you know, Saturday and Sunday from, you know, 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk a little more later.
Great. So if we go to our Copper Sky Regional Park, our ball fields had a 50% utilization rate. Our multi-purpose fields had a 47%. Ramadas had a 9%. And the Great Lawn, which is large open space, that's at 2%. And we,
this is just during the peak hours?
This is just those peak hours.
Okay.
And I do want to add a little bit more context to that. So for example, you might see 50%, and at first glance that might seem fairly low. But again, our fields we measured from August 1st to May 31st. If you look at the peak of the peak, you might look at Little League, for example, that the bulk of their season is going to be the beginning of March to mid-May to end of May. If we looked specifically at that, you're going to see more like 80 or 90%. We just tried to make the data as expansive as possible to tell as much of the story as possible, but there's still nuance in that, you know, 50% might seem low. In reality, it's really not. It's actually pretty high.
Yeah, and I think the question of how did you come up with these goals might help explain that aspect. But if you could explain, how did you come up with the goals? 55% utilization for fields, 52% for multi-purpose fields. How did you come up with those goals?
Sure. We looked at a number of different factors. One, we looked at, you know, what are we doing as a city? We obviously know, you know, each year is projected to grow around 4%. So we know there's going to be a natural increase to our facilities. An increase of 4% to our city doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be an increase of 4% to our fields. We recognize, you know, there's some more availability on weekends that we can maybe try to do a little bit more active recruitment. So that's why for our fields, you'll see about a 5% increase, and you'll see that pretty consistent across Copper Sky, Pecana, and Lakeview. In regards to ramadas, you'll see that's, as well as the Great Lawn, frankly, those are marginal increases, and those are more tailored towards just the fact that our city's growing. Usually those types of facilities we want those to be open. We don't necessarily want to have those full of rentals. We want people to come to their park, see an open ramada, be able to use, you know, sit down. So that's why you'll see, you know, smaller goal percentages on ramadas, open space. Fields is consistently around 5% just because our utilization for fields is already really heavy. As we go to our rooms, you'll see a little bit of a higher goal. But that's just because it's a little bit lower of utilization rate.
Yeah, okay, that was perfectly explained, but it didn't really have anything to do with where I thought it was going in terms of this is what we think is a good utilization of this asset, and the rest of the time it leaves it open for flexibility. That wasn't part of the goal, just an increase based on the rates that we're talking about today.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think as we get heavier usage, that might make a little bit more sense to figure out what we should cap things at. But right now, I don't think we're to the point where, hey, we need to start capping our reservations. So we're really focusing on, hey, where can we get that's feasible in the next year?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So if you look at specifically Copper Sky Multi-Generational Center, you'll see our Copper Sky rooms, our utilization rate was about 25%. And I will say our rooms over the course of a year have a lot more available hours than what we set the peak hours for our fields. So field hours, you know, we took out summer, We reduced it to those evening times because that's when the majority of our users are trying to book it. For our rooms, you know, we could try to get more users throughout the day. So our rooms, again, have, you know, availability from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with our peak hours. Industry standard, when we look at different metrics, and you'll see this pretty common with like hotel rooms, different things like that in the private sector, a strong utilization rate's usually between 20 and 40%. So again, we kind of have to keep in context that if we're looking to have 90% utilization of rooms, that's probably not going to happen no matter how low our rates are. So we just kind of keep in mind that, you know, 40 to 60% general considered good. Copper Sky is a little bit low in regards to utilization. And then the multi-gen is the open space that's directly adjacent to the facility that had a 5% utilization. And again, you'll see charts on the right of these, and those are just measuring the type of user. And you'll see a pretty general theme on all of these, that the type of user is vast majority as residents, and it does break down in, you know, city department, local business, nonprofit, private individuals, et cetera. But in all of them, people in Maricopa are the ones using these facilities. And if you go over to Pecana Park utilization, those ball fields had a 49% utilization rate. The multi-purpose fields had a 26%, and those ramadas were at 5%. Again, the vast majority of those users are residents, and you'll see also a vast majority is nonprofits. And then if we jump over to our Lakeview utilization, Lakeview saw a 48% utilization rate, and those ramadas had a 2%. That park did just recently open up, so we're excited to look at 2025 to get a little bit more expansive data on Lakeview, but that's where we are right now. And again, the vast majority is residents, and of those is nonprofits, Little League. Now we're gonna switch gears a little bit and go over to Maricopa Cultural Center. And we separated this from the library as there's really two specific areas. The Cultural Center has the paid rooms versus the library, which are free rooms. So we completely separated those out so we could kind of measure the difference of, hey, what are our free rooms doing versus what are our paid rooms doing? The Cultural Center had a utilization rate of about 18%. And again, we're going to see the same 10% increase goal that we're, you know, putting for our other rooms across the city. And so now we're going to jump over to our library, and these are the specific free rooms that are available at the library. There's no specific user type data available for this because it's part of a different booking system. There's no fees associated with these. And COC is really drop-in only, so it doesn't actually have data to measure, but we are averaging that based on the other two study rooms. And those rooms had a pretty high utilization. Palo Verde room 28%, study room A 55%, study room B 49%. So those had a pretty strong utilization rate.
So David, I'll share from my perspective in case council or our audience is not aware. These rooms are critical to have at no fee, available for drop-in if they're not being used, and available for reservation, which we have a good mix of. And I myself have used them. And so they're very important to have readily available for people who are in the library. So I don't ever see us changing that. Well, I shouldn't say ever, but I don't see us changing that.
Absolutely, and all of our rooms are absolutely beautiful. So we hope people use them as much as they can. So now we've discussed some of our utilization rates. We've seen some are extremely high, like our fields. Some are a little bit maybe on the low side in regards to our rooms. So some of the rate changes you'll see, we're going to see, and I'm saying we're seeing them. This is ultimately a discussion, but reduced room rates, reduced court space rates, and those are like the pickleball courts, the volleyball courts, etc. You also see reduced open space rates. And another point of this that people will see based on previous policy that you've already approved, we stated that hard costs will be passed on to the users. Staff have done a really great job analyzing all of our data and looking at, how many light fixtures do we have, our electrical bills across different parks. There's a lot that went into it, but we found that we're going to see a little bit of a reduction in our light fees. Our youth currently is 12, our adult is 18. You'll see those standardized at about $12 because that is a hard cost. And one thing I do want to mention in regards to some of these rate changes, this isn't necessarily based on market rates. If you look at just market rate, I think our current rates are actually already a little bit low in regards to market rate. We have extremely affordable reservation prices in Maricopa compared to all of the other cities we did research on. So largely, some of these reductions is more a focus on trying to bring our utilization rate up as opposed to matching market rates. So largely among our outdoor spaces, our fields will not see any change. Things in green is where you'll start seeing a decrease. In our research, we found that courts tend to consistently be lower than field reservations, and so we're going to be lowering our courts to a little bit, and that's going to be a little bit more a reflection of market rates that we research in other cities. If you look at Copper Sky, again, the fields are largely not changing. Where you'll start seeing the majority of the changes is when you look at the rooms and some of the outdoor space. So the outside courts saw a slight reduction. The Copper Sky multi-gen lawn is going to see a $15 reduction at the base rate, which will then lead to about a $10 difference for the resident nonprofits. And then our Great Lawn, which is again just open space, that's going to see a pretty decent reduction as well. And then the Group Ramada, again, this one is based more on market research. We found that Ramadas of that size are a little bit lower than where we were, so we thought we could reduce that. In our rooms, we are reducing those based on trying to raise our utilization. And as part of those goals, not only do we want to focus on, can we make our fees to where it's more attractive, but, we also want to have a heavier emphasis on, are we marketing these? Do our residents know about, the rooms available to rent in the city? So that's all going to be a part of it. And then at the Library and Cultural Center, again, you'll see a slight reduction with these recommendations on pretty much every single space available. Each room is going to see a slight reduction. The outdoor space around the libraries to receive a slight reduction, as well as the community center. We also lowered those as well. And so we consistently, on Copper Sky, Library, Culture Center, and Community Center, we tried to match the rate that we're lowering it by the amount of people that can fit in the room. So if occupancy at a library room is similar to the occupancy at the Copper Sky, we lowered those by about the same amount. So now we'll move over to a couple different recommendations to the policy and a couple new additions, and I'll read through it and I'll kind of explain the thought process behind why we're looking to potentially add those. Before I move on, though, I failed to ask if there's any questions on what we went through with the rate reduction recommendations. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about the 40 to 60%? Because I guess in my mind that I would think like 70% sounds like a good amount of usage. 40 to 60 sounds a little bit low, but can you help me understand why you're feeling like that's a good goal to shoot for?
The 40 to 60 I mentioned was really based on privatized research. When you look at like hotel bookings at different room rental, the industries, they shoot for that 40 to 60. So again, we're not necessarily have to hold ourselves to that. I mean, it would be wonderful to shoot for 80%. Right now, where we are at 25%, we want to make incremental goals that are feasible, and once we reach those, is it possible to go above the 40 to 60%? Hopefully, I mean, that would be great. I just mentioned that to give context behind the utilization rates, that 100% is not industry standard. It's not something that we should even necessarily shoot for, because that's an extremely lofty goal. So just simply to provide context is all.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yep.
I had another question. I've talked to several nonprofits, and they typically talk about cost as being the number one barrier to them renting these rooms. But I was wondering if you got any feedback from local businesses of what they're looking for and what the barriers are for them using these rooms.
Typically, among the users, cost is usually what people talk about. And so we definitely took that in consideration, where we are lowering those to try and help our local users out. We do want to be cautious to not make our rates so low as to maybe make it so the private industry who's maybe interested in renting out rooms it would be impossible for them. We also want to make sure that people understand there's value to these rooms. So certainly as much as we'd love everyone to get free rooms, that may be administratively difficult to then, divvy out space to users. But certainly we did get that feedback that, users do struggle with our rates. And so we definitely took that in consideration as we looked to reduce a lot of these rates.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, please continue. I have lots of questions. I'm sure everyone else does too. But
So some of the revisions to the policy that we've come up with is we want to introduce a youth recreational league rate, and we've defined that as an organization that offers a sport league for youth that does not involve tryouts, monthly dues, invitations, recruiting on the basis of talent or ability, which would exclude youth community members. Exclusions of members of the community disqualifies an organization from this discount. And these leagues must have at least 75% Maricopa residents. And so a rate that we want to attach to organizations that fall within that definition is 50% of the lowest rate. And we modeled that off of what we're currently providing Little League. We really want, when we think about the city now and 50 years from now, we want to have a sustainable model that we can apply to all organizations, because we know Maricopa is going to continue to grow. There's probably going to be more organizations that come wanting to offer those recreational leagues, and we really want to facilitate those. And so we've defined a very similar definition with adult recreational leagues to offer that same benefit to the adult leagues. And so some examples, I mentioned Little League receiving that. We recently had AZ Sport League who came into the community, and they're providing adult soccer, adult sand volleyball. We also have had a local pickleball league start up, which is fantastic, and we want to continue to facilitate those because there's a massive benefit to them offering those. I mean, the city could run all these things, but certainly it's, saves the city time, bandwidth, energy, and is extremely helpful to, the private sector to be able to offer those things. We want to facilitate them as much as possible.
So David, our city, our citizens, we have a lot of fiscally responsible, conservative people, and they understand that for certain. Because if a private organization comes in and operates a softball league, adult, youth, Little League, they are actually saving the city money because we're not having to use staff to organize that. But there's still maintenance of the fields, and that's important to look at as well. So I'm curious, it's highlighted, so is this a change?
This will be an addition to, this was not previously in the rates policy.
Right.
This is a potential addition we could add.
Very good. That's what I wanted,
Yep.
and I wanted to make that clear to the
Yep.
public and to the rest. Okay, please, thanks. Continue.
Any other questions on that one? Thanks. So another new addition that we're proposing is a non-resident business that does not have a local address may qualify for the local business rate if their reservation serves the local population through programming that serves at least 75% Maricopa residents. And we define programming as organized activities that are designed to promote physical, social, and emotional well-being by engaging in sports, arts, classes, fitness, crafts, special events, workshops, education, and other leisure pursuits. And so as we did a lot of this research, our non-resident rate is on average significantly higher than some other cities, which we as a city recognize. We purposely think, our taxpayers shouldn't bear the brunt of, non-residents using our facilities. So we've made that cost extremely high. However, there are certain organizations, and you'll see most of these organizations do not have a local specific address. So technically they would receive our non-resident rates, which may make it extremely difficult for them to come in and provide a service. And I just give a quick example of this organization, BEST. They were a youth recreational camp of sorts that's really focused on beginners, and they're trying to give really low rates. It's really focused on the children. They're technically a non-resident business. However, the service they provide is really focused on helping our residents. It's for our youth. And so, in order to facilitate that, we're saying, hey, you know what, since you are serving all of, our kids, our citizens, we're going to give you that base rate instead of the non-resident rate. Any questions on
I think that's a good
one?
addition.
Great. Yep. And another potential addition to that rate policy is in regards to tournaments, and that's the highest priority of the city is to provide space for local residents. However, the city recognizes the positive economic impact of large tournaments. Thus, tournaments of a certain significant size determined in the allocation guide. And I'll pause there. That's an internal document that we handle in recreation, and it just defines, how we properly reserve our sports fields to users to make sure that it's equitable and we can have enough space to do so. But those tournaments that qualify at that size may qualify for the base rate. Tournaments will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis with the goal to balance local play with attracting out-of-town visitors and revenue. And so again, we as a city, we recognize there is an economic positive impact of bringing people to the community, and tournaments is one way to do that. They spend money at our restaurants. They potentially stay at hotels. But when you think of our non-resident rates, again, it is on the high end, and we want maybe one more thing in our tool belt to be able to solicit tournaments to come to us rather than to other organizations. And this is something that we need to be careful as staff to decide, what tournaments of what size could qualify, and we might need to change because we have more multi-purpose fields than we do ball fields. But this allows us a little bit of flexibility to, hey, if we're becoming too full, maybe we don't want to offer those rates, but on the initial, hey, we want to start bringing a little bit more tournaments. This is just one more essentially marketing technique that we can say, hey, we can give you this lower rate if you're bringing in, a certain size tournament. So, yep. I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Identified.
How are churches identified? They're considered nonprofits if they've received that designation.
Even if they only meet once a week?
Yeah, we usually don't look at different users based on how much they're using. We just look at their, so to qualify as a nonprofit, we ask for their identification number, and so churches would then provide that to provide proof that they're a nonprofit, and then we'd be able to give them that lower rate. So it's not necessarily about usage. Again, it's just based on, hey, what is your type of organization?
Okay.
Any other questions? Great. So in conclusion, we've looked at adjusting rates. We've looked at reducing our rooms, our courts, our open space, our ramadas, as well as reduced light fees. We haven't looked at a single increase in fees. And again, this is based not necessarily on market rate because our our rates are already a little bit lower than others we've looked at. It's more, hey, how can we facilitate members of our community to use our facilities more? As well as the adjustments to the rates policy, and we included the adult and youth recreational league discounts. And we've also included language that will facilitate more recreation programming in the city. And lastly, included language to increase the amount of tournaments and economic impact to the city. Any questions?
Very good. So David, I want to pause there for just a moment because on your last slide, and you talk about facilitate more recreation programming and large tournaments, economic impact. It's important to note that what we're really talking about and your change in terms of programming in the actual policy really addresses partnerships. And partnerships is important to all of us. We have a big emotion about that, so does our public. And so what I want to make sure everyone understands is the city is looking at partnerships, and we will address that in our futures meeting, and I'm excited for that conversation. So today, I think it's important to, unless you disagree with that language, it's important to focus on the rates, how do you feel, the changes that were made, and know that the partnership discussion is coming during the futures meeting. And that's a huge, important discussion as well.
Absolutely, yeah, I appreciate that.
So council members, what questions? Yes, Councilmember Lehrman.
Thank you so much. This was great. I was really looking forward to this, and so I really appreciate all your hard work, as do I think the community members. This has been on a lot of people's hearts and minds for the last year. I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me about this topic, so thank you so much for providing such detailed data. Back to the 40 to 60% goal, I would just like to propose a higher goal of 49 to 69%. For me, this is such a great topic, and we're very passionate about it. Like Mayor said, we want our community to use these rooms. So a 40 to 60% goal is just, it's too low for me.
Okay.
So I would like that goal to be 49 to 69% if there's any way that that change is appropriate.
Thank you, Councilmember. I just want to also point out again, and that kind of feedback, we hope this would spark a conversation. These are all recommendations that, of course, need to be approved, and we expect that there will be discussion. But that point in particular, I just wanted to reiterate something that David said. Again, if we look at the very specific times that they're in highest demand, we are at a much higher utilization of 80 to 90. So, of course, yes, we can make those goals, and we can make those efforts to be enticing and looking to recruit usage of our rooms in those times of lesser January type, but we may not see those things, but that's certainly a goal, and to be collecting that data as we go and say, is marketing more, is reaching out to those groups, is creating partnerships, generating the kind of response we want to see just in the peak hours or outside of those peak hours as well. How can we be effective there as well? So absolutely.
Thank you, Quinn. Can you talk a little bit more about the marketing that has been done or will be happening?
Honestly, we've been focused mainly on looking at the rates, looking at the impact, and collecting that data. Letting people know what can be done there and whatnot has been much more on an individual basis, talking with people, but putting together that strategy and communicating it clearly, reaching out, and David and his team have begun a great process of reaching out and beginning to recruit. But we look to, before we got too much ahead and changing rates and upending the world, but now with this more data and more information, that's something we want to increase. And again, having this kind of public discourse is absolutely important so people can understand the mentality and mindset, again, of saying, hey, we want lots of things happening in our community. We want to make sure we're doing it in a sustainable fashion. We want to make sure that, and I think a great indicator of that is what is private industry's success in doing this, and finding groups that are coming in, looking at some of our offerings, looking at our rates and saying, yeah, we could do that. As David mentioned, some groups that have said, oh, at those rates, yes, I can afford to start adult soccer, I can adult volleyball, and the local group that said we can do pickleball. So we're seeing some success there. We'd like to generate more.
Very good. Additional comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Gatto.
I'll take a stab at this. First of all, I just want to say thank you to both you, Quinn, and David, and your department for thinking this through so thoroughly. And for the proposals made here tonight, I'm excited to see the lowering of these rates. And I don't know if this is a question more than it is a statement. I think we're working with an okay model. From what I'm hearing today is we have a model of, we have certain room numbers, we have a certain percentage that we would like to have those rooms utilized at. So let's adjust the rate to increase usage. And I think that's a fine model, and I think it does balance in the supply and the demand part of it. But I still think, and I voiced this last year, that our model needs to be, what are the hard costs? And we've used that word a few times here today. What are the hard costs for those facilities? And are we capturing those hard costs? And then stop capturing at those hard costs and make them as free as we possibly can. We'll worry perhaps about the overbooking of the rooms, if that's a potential danger of that type of a model in the future. But again, these facilities have been purchased and built by developer impact fees, by bonds, by continual taxpayers. And I still don't feel overly excited about charging an additional fee for a city facility that's already been paid for. So again, that's kind of my grumbling with this, and I don't mean too negative, because again, I'm appreciative of the direction that we're heading here. So maybe there's something you can say to kind of help change my mind on that old style model of let's just recover hard costs versus this model of let's adjust rates so we can control usage percentage.
Councilmember Gettle, I would say there's certainly varied philosophies out there, and as a staff, we look to take direction and make sure that we're in line with the direction that the council wants to go. I think they've certainly looked at a lot of cities around the valley that have run ashore with financial trouble. I think the latest headline we saw, Phoenix considering a 0.5-cent sales tax for operational things and saying, how do we avoid some of the same things? So making those smart decisions. There is certainly a mindset of taxpayers have already funded this, so should there be additional fees on top of that? I know that it's also a train of thought that those fees are for the collective use, for the communal group, for instance, a park that's totally open, and even let's take a softball field, for instance, that anyone could go and play at any time, versus when you are reserving that for your exclusive use and saying you can't play because I have it at that time, saying, okay, that's when we're going to require a reservation fee. And as we've looked at this at cities across the valley, they have quite a range of things that they consider hard costs. Some of them may include lighting, most of them do. There may be a few that don't. Staffing, part-time staffing, full-time staffing, field prep. So really it's more of a philosophical collective understanding of saying, what do we think is the most responsible thing to do? And that's open for discussion, absolutely. Yeah. But we can share with you what's used to calculate. So these are the hard costs we're looking at. If we collectively want to say, hey, we don't want to consider that to make it more affordable. And the other thing I'd point out is this is going to need to be a living document. As we continue to grow, we're going to need to make changes accordingly. And I think we found that. We've looked to make a substantial move in this direction, and it's having some negative result that we're not seeing the utilization we want. So we're looking to adjust, but we're going to have to continue to do that.
And so maybe into that vein, would you recommendation be to have an annual review of these rates as we did this previous year, or is that
Oh, that would be great, because then I wouldn't have to review it every week like we normally do. So.
That would be great. Yeah, I like that suggestion.
But yeah, that's a fantastic idea.
The final question perhaps, and this would be an unfair question, I don't know if you have these numbers handy or not, but I'd be interested to see what revenue, if we can use that word, we have generated from these room fees versus the hard cost outlay, and how those balance out. And would you feel that the proposed rate structure would help balance that in a positive direction? Or are we underwater as a city? Are we putting more resources into these fields and facilities than we're having returned? Where are we in that balance, maybe?
That's a good question. I'm sure I'll let David share some insight, but you bring up something else that I wanted to point out, Councilmember Gettle, is when you see something like a 50% utilization rate, you might say, how could anyone ever make the case for adding more softball fields? Right. Again, when you look at the times when that's happening, it's a much narrower window and the utilization is much higher. Sure. And as David pointed out, when you create more opportunities, and council has been clear in their strategic thrusts of having a goal of exploring sports tourism, you begin to open new opportunities that could offset that investment. Right. Yeah, the city may need to subsidize this offering or help sustain it, and our mindset is how do we make that to be as light a burden as possible, sustainable, open the windows and doors for private industry to come in, and yet also taking into account there may be a larger benefit that we can get as a result of that by having that economic impact of having large-scale tournaments or more of those offerings, not to mention the quality of life when people feel proud of their community and happy to live there, that they have all of that. But David, did you have anything to add in terms of that?
So I just wanted to give a little bit of context into the hard costs. So there's certain hard costs that we have separated from the room reservations. So Quinn mentioned like field preparation, lights. Those are fairly easy and straightforward to calculate. If nobody's renting the field, we don't have the lights on. So when somebody's renting the field, hey, we can look at the number of fixtures. We can work with our lighting service to say, hey, how much kilowatts per hour are those light bulbs? We can look at, with the electrical company, we can look at that data. So we can pretty accurately determine specific hard cost. So we charge separately for lights. We charge separately for staff time, for example, because we know, hey, our staff costs this much. But when it comes to something like a room, it can become exceedingly difficult to really figure out what are the hard costs because, we replace the floors every so often. We have to paint the walls every so often. What about AC costs? What about power costs? And over the course of the entire Copper Sky facility, that can become exceedingly difficult. So odds are likely that we probably, when you start including some of those ancillary hard costs, we maybe aren't actually even covering those at our current rates because there's a lot of different rates involved with just renting a room. So just some things to keep in mind that, it's very difficult to bring all of that together and say, hey, we can charge our rooms at this rate because of electric costs, of our replacement schedule, of all those different things. So just a little bit of context to that. We obviously want to charge the lowest we can and make those hard costs, and so we're able to do that on some of the more straightforward things like lights. And so that's why, hey, we're lowering lights because we've done the analysis. We see, hey, we can lower those lights costs for our residents, but our room rates, it gets a little bit more complex.
No, I appreciate that perspective, David. Thank you.
Yep.
I had one other question, but it's escaped me, so I'll come back if.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I do want to mention, you mentioned quality of life. That's what this is all about. That's what we've been asking for the last year, because what I keep hearing is the mom who's home during the day who would like to have a birthday party during the middle of the day, non-peak hours at the Ramada, but she doesn't want to do that because she doesn't know, is that Ramada going to be used? And most likely if it's not a peak hour, it's not going to be used, but they don't take the risk, and the cost is too high. So, going back to some of the Ramadas, it was $10, $15 an hour, and if you do a 3-hour party for the kids, that adds up. Mm-hmm. So it's all about quality of life, especially for underutilized assets. That's important to me. And I have more to say about that, but I know Councilmember Nora, you were wanting to say something. Did I see your hand go up? Okay.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like, before we consider this and vote on it formally, I would like to have it, I wasn't on the council when the new rates were adopted, and so I don't have the prior knowledge that all of my amazing colleagues have, and so I would like to see what the utilization rates were before the new rates, so pre-2023 and prior, because the new rates went into effect in 2024, correct?
They went into effect at the end of 2023,
Okay.
and at that point, we weren't keeping track of utilization. So that's why we put those rates in place at the best rate we could find, and it's per policy to recover most of the costs. So I would say that that's, the way to analyze that is per policy to recover the cost. And we asked for a review of the utilization because we want the quality of life after a year's gathering of utilization. Okay. So that's where we are right now.
Perfect. So I guess if we don't have the utilization rates from prior, could I just have you email me the rates, the prior rates, like what we were charging before the new system, just so I know what I'm comparing, if that makes sense?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Manfredi?
Sure. If I remember correctly, our prior rates were more than the
Yes,
rates. So
I
we
believe
went
they were,
down,
yeah.
and then we're going down again.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, by the way.
Mhm.
What I look at, I don't know how many people here have had children in the marrying age or getting close to it, but it's really dang expensive to have your child get married these days. And if you do it on a Saturday or a Sunday, it's really expensive. But if you do it on a Thursday afternoon after work, it's not that bad. You could save some money.
Nobody comes, but it's not that bad.
Well, people show up.
Okay.
My daughter got married on a Friday. If you didn't, I mean, because it was cheaper than Saturday. It was like we were able to save a couple $1,000s doing it. And it allows, for savings. So what I look at is I like when you guys talk about peak and off-peak because it means that we understand when it is, right? So when we have those off-peak months or off-peak hours, I'd like to see, I don't want to say the word free because people will go crazy, but I would like to see nearly free. And so we can fill those spaces up. So if the months of, I forgot what it was, but say June through August are dead times for us as a city, rental, right? And let's say at the library, I don't think those are dead months on the library. I think they're busy, but probably less busy than other months, right? But if they're really, really slow, and we know that we're not renting the place out, I'd like to see almost free, or half of what the lowest rate is, because they're off-peak hours. So when you say a living document, I think we can do that. And I think we can make it a living document through our Community Services Department to understand, hey, we realize that this month is dead, there's nothing here. And maybe put something out to the public saying, did you realize these rooms are available? And here's a 50% off on it. And I know it's not 50% off like sales, but understanding that if rooms are not being used, I feel we're underutilizing those rooms as a city, and we should allow people into them. Now, does that mean I want to rent them out to a micro school that wants to use that room for 4 months in a row? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need to find a way that makes it so people can use them. An example, if you can just go back to the library slide, those prices. And an example would be, there it is. Oh, back the other way, sorry.
About that.
One more. There you go. There it is. The Library Cultural Redwood A and B, the Pine, the Maple Room, the Outdoor, and the Library Cultural Atrium, right? So if you were to say, right, I wanted to have a senior expo, and which is great for the community, right? But if you're not the city of Maricopa and you wanted to host something like that, right, it would cost you $300, $400, $500, I don't know, $400 or $500, or maybe $400 something an hour, right? To do that on a Saturday afternoon when it's really probably not being used anyway, it's probably empty or something, or a Wednesday afternoon if you wanted to do some sort of a seminar or something. And that's for local business. God forbid you were outside the city, which, by the way, I prefer the outside the city being really expensive, by the way, so I'm the one that said it should be 200%. But what I look at is if it's a Tuesday, and nothing's ever booked on a Tuesday afternoon in the library, we should have that flexibility to say, yeah, bring that here. Whether it's a real estate expo or anything, right? Whatever it is, bring it in so that we can get that, not sports tourism, but the conference tourism maybe, and get some of that stuff down into the city of Maricopa. Or just a local business that wants to host a real estate thing and get people in. Just thinking outside the box. And I want, not that I want, I guess, the rates to be flexible, not fungible, I don't want to say fungible. I want them to be flexible, and I want them to be a living document. I want to see those rooms when I drive by on Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, there's something happening, right? I like to see that because it tells me the city's alive. It tells me something's happening. I want to see that as much as humanly possible. So I love having rates. I love having everything set in stone. That's good. But we should be able to adjust when needed.
I
I hope that makes sense.
I think the idea and discussion on partnerships
Yeah.
will fall in line with a lot of what you just said. I think that's good.
I think that's important. And partnerships are going to help us with some stuff,
Right.
with Little League and with adult softball and stuff like that. But I'm just talking about a small business.
No, I
right?
totally understand.
So-
I understand that.
I don't know if it's a partnership because it's not an ongoing thing, but the ability to do something that's open to the public. I love the ideas.
But I like your idea of off-peak hours. I was getting to that.
Yeah.
I hinted at that earlier. I like the idea of off-peak hours because that mom that stays at home during the day who wants to plan something either in a room or at a Ramada, wherever the
Yeah.
case may be, she can afford it if we have off-peak rates. I think that's really important. So something to consider
Yeah.
and put back in.
And I think what we had, this was a long time ago, a very long time. Jeez. This was a long time ago, a very long time ago, before we had most of our rooms. I think we had the Copa Center. Raise your hand if you remember that one. Right? We had the Copa Center, and it was drop in. So if you walked in that place and there was nobody there, you could use that place. It was pretty cool. But unfortunately, that's not something we can do these days. But I like the idea that if you stop in, and we have it at the library, right, the study rooms, but if you wanted to have something and no one's using it, and you want it the next day, you should be able to reserve it for as cheap as possible, right? So I like these.
I like that.
The ability to just be flexible, and I give you guys and staff the ability to do that.
I like that. Thank you. Councilmember Manfredi, Councilmember yes, City Manager.
Yeah, excuse me. Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Manfredi. I think that's something that, like, similar to how David and Quinn talked about the allocation guide, allowing some flexibility for staff to work through it. We could look at some language that would allow for off-peak and on-peak.
That'd be great.
Not that on-peak would be an increase, effectively
Right.
on-peak would be your base rate, and then off-peak could potentially be a decrease. What I wouldn't want to get into a position is where we never have reservations until the last minute.
Yeah, true.
Because if we get into a point where, well, no one ever reserves anything, and then the next day we're faced with a bevy of reservations just because there's a thought that, hey, that is going to be now off-peak because no one else has reserved it, then it creates a tremendous burden for our staff with setup times or those kind of things. And so obviously we want to get these as booked as possible, but we also want to be considerate of our day-to-day operations. And so I think providing the staff the flexibility to do that through the allocation guide or some other method, we could come back and present that as part of the policy. Again, tonight, this is just a discussion.
It's just discussion, yeah.
We can come forward depending on the will of the council. We could bring forth these base rates for action at our next council meeting or at any council meeting in the future. And also, again, having consideration that as part of futures planning, we'll have some more discussion on some other elements that could potentially even further reduce these rates. And so I think all of that is framed within the larger picture of rates as a whole.
Very good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marsh.
I think I heard or saw a reference to a youth rate. Have you considered the other end of the age spectrum, a senior discount?
So those specific those were specific to sport leagues, and so there was one that was the adult sport league, and so certainly if there was a senior pickleball league, they would get that discount. I mean, that would be awesome. That would be great. They would definitely fit in that adult category.
Any further comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Noor?
Mayor, I just want to follow up on what Councilmember Manfredi said, and if it's possible, when we bring this back for consideration, I would like to see a proposal for off-peak rates that I think we could move forward with.
Or a policy.
Or
Yeah.
policy,
Yeah.
because, I mean, clearly David has a very good understanding of peak and off-peak.
Yep.
And a big spreadsheet about it. And so, I mean, I don't think it would take a lot for us to be able to implement that, and I think it would be really valuable.
Oh, totally cool. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I think that's might be when the seniors would use it most, is during the off-peak hours. Sorry, comments out in the audience. All right, so when I looked at this, what caught my eye is the underutilization, what I will call super underutilization of some elements. The ramadas, the cultural culture, the lawn, the multi-gen lawn, the Great Lawn, the Pecana Park multiple purpose. Is that the one that is west of the basketball courts?
The multi-purpose fields?
Yeah, or is that the one that's
there's-
south of?
So there's 3 multi-purpose fields at Pecana. The ones that we included in our measurement are both the south fields. The north field doesn't have lights, so we actually didn't include that
Okay.
in our data.
Okay, but there are some major areas. I mean, if you think about, Cedric, when the community comes together, they come together, right? Like, and it creates a sense of place. And that's really what my goal would be, is creating a sense of place. And so for just something to consider when you come back, the super underutilized areas, the ramadas, the multi-gen law, that multi-gen lawn at Copper Sky is phenomenal. Like, why aren't we having, my husband, when I was talking to him about this, what about a croquet tournament? Like, you know, if a group wanted to do a croquet tournament, I mean, just to see people out there, you know, having fun, that's to me what it's all about, creating community. So anyway, just
I tried to do a wedding there, she turned me down. She said no.
just to look at the super underutilized, and maybe there's a slightly more of a decrease for those elements, so that we bring awareness, because I'll bet so many people don't know about that lawn just out of sight of Copper Sky. Bring awareness, more use, that would be my recommendation. On softball fields, I don't know how the rest of council feels about it, but I realize you probably calculated softball and baseball rates because it is Copper Sky, but I would like to see the rates be the same that they are at Pecana and Lakeview. And
No, I'm so sorry, I don't
That's
want
right.
to interrupt you. Please
That's
please
right.
finish your...
No, that was my point.
Oh, perfect. Well-
Like, it just makes things a lot easier if it's the same rate, and there probably is a reason, and come on, we all know that this is a matter of subsidizing rates because we want to create quality of life. We want the community to get together, and so in that case, it just seems simpler to make those rates the same. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, we can absolutely explore getting those consistent. I will say it's pretty common practice to have different and higher rates for your premier fields. Our fields consistently get feedback that we have some of the best fields in the state.
Yes.
And we love that.
Yeah.
Copper Sky's fields are extremely nice fields, and so we do have a little bit of a premium to be able to use those fields.
Yeah.
To slightly push maybe a user that they don't necessarily need those nice fields, they can then go to Pecana or something like
Okay.
that.
Well, let me
that's
just,
the thought
let me
process.
just
I'm
get a
not saying
gauge from
we
the rest of
can't
council. Like,
do
am I
that, but that's
off
the thought
target on
process
that,
behind
or
it.
any strong feelings either way? No strong feelings? Okay. Pardon me? Very good. Okay. Yep, no strong feelings on that, so.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, any additional?
Yeah,
Yes.
one last thing.
Yes.
There's plenty of people here. No one spoke about this before at the call to the public, but now that those rates are out there, you have our email address. It's citycouncil@maricopa-az.gov. We'd like to hear from the community. Tell us what you think about the rates that you're seeing and talk to us. That way we have more information from you as we make our decisions going forward.
Very good. So clear enough direction? Oh, yes, one more. Councilmember Lehrman.
I don't mean to be repetitive, but when we do come back to this, I would really like to hear about the marketing plan a little bit more, if it's social media, if it's emails, and then the city newsletter, whatever that is. If that could be included in the presentation, that would be great as well.
Yeah.
All of the above, yes.
You guys did a great job listening to us and listening to the public, and I am thankful for that. Thank you very much. I really didn't know until I saw the packet where this conversation was going to go, but I'm tickled that it's headed in the direction that it's headed.
Well, we certainly know this conversation isn't finished, just beginning, and I really want to thank and applaud David again for taking on that assignment to look at various departments, to look at our various facilities, to really delve into that data, to get that feedback. He's done a tremendous amount of work, and hearing from the community as well, and we'll continue to adjust, so thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes.
do we have a date that you'd like to bring that back?
Well, that requires me looking at my calendar.
Well, I guess the question becomes, do we want it at the next meeting, at the first meeting in February, at the second meeting in February, following future
I would say if
planning?
staff is ready at the first
2
meeting,
weeks.
let's, 2 weeks? Yeah, go with the first meeting
Okay,
in February.
we'll give it a
Yeah.
shot, and if not, then we'll let you
Yeah.
all know and
Yeah.
push it to the next one, but we'll do our best.
Absolutely.
We're not busy. State of the city.
Oh, wait, we have one more comment from Vice Mayor Wade.
Just a comment, and we talked about how nice our fields are and how much notoriety we get. Just like to acknowledge Mr. Mike Briggs, because he's the one that started us off on that pattern, and we owe that to him, a great deal to him.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. That was a great, healthy conversation. I appreciate that. That'll take us to agenda item 8.4, and we do have a presentation
Mayor?
from, yes.
Before we start with 8.4, I'd like to go into executive session for a moment to discuss with our get some legal advice from our attorney on that agenda item.
Very good. So is that a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second to go? Seconded by Councilmember Lehrman. Any questions, concerns? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll head into executive session. We will be back. Oh, is it still out there? Oh, okay.
second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Lehrman. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then we have left E-session, and do I have a motion to come back into regular session?
Yes?
So, so, do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Noor. Any questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. So now we're back into regular session, and we're talking about the first agenda item, which is 8.4.
Mayor, I want to thank everybody for sticking with us while we went upstairs and just got a little bit of information. And with that, I would like to move to table 8.4, 8.5, and 8.6 for a further agenda.
Very good.
A future agenda, I meant.
So I have a motion to table 8.4, 8.5, and 8.6. Do I have a second? Seconded by Vice Mayor Wade. Hopefully I'll get over this. Anyone have any questions? Very good. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you very much all for staying.
Ready for the fireworks. No.